Yeah, welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start to their day today. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Teron Davenport will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. We'll look ahead to the Titans and the Detroit Lions going up with him. Vanderbilt taking on Texas. Some interesting college football matchups this weekend. Preds back in action tonight. Lots to get to on the program today. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Doing fine. Ready for a big Friday. It's a big high school football, and Nolensville Brentwood playing for the state championship in volleyball today. So basically, this entire week, kids have been basically not even really going to school. They've just been going to volleyball games.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's cool though.
Absolutely, that's awesome.
Big one today.
I'm pulling for Nolensville.
Thank you.
Sorry to the people of Brentwood. We love you too.
Go Knights
on this program.
Fridays for Knights.
That's right. Nick Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Morning. Ready for 5 hours of production. Ready for the questions chair in the next 30 minutes.
Yes. The choice is yours happening today as well.
Yep. Getting you set for Preds later with our pick to click. So stay tuned for all that. And then, hey, I'm doing celebrity birthdays, I guess, later. So
wow.
Let's have fun with that.
Are you in charge of said competition or are you participating in said competition?
I would believe I kind of guess the birthdays.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So who's asking the questions then?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Maybe Chase. I don't know. Or maybe it is me. I don't know.
Could be
yet.
you.
You better find out.
I'm ready. I'm ready either way.
And maybe some vital information.
That's
could
right.
be you. We will have the choice is yours at 6:30. Usually on Wednesdays, there was a trade that took place this Wednesday that pushed that one back a little bit with DeAndre Hopkins, which we'll get more to that here in just a few minutes. But Joey began last night, Thursday Night Football. The Rams taking down the Vikings 30-20. We had Charles Robinson on the program yesterday talking about the Rams, be that a potential Matthew Stafford trade, a Cooper Kupp trade. And one of the things Charles talked about was like, really, regardless of the way it goes, like if you're Minnesota and you beat the Rams yesterday, that would have gotten them to 6-1, and Sam Darnold continued to play good football. And it's like, all right, well, you know, the Stafford to Minnesota thing that Charles brought up yesterday, that would, you know, if they went out there and won again with Darnold, it's like, all right, well, why would they do that? And then if you're LA, you win the game, you get to 3-4, which is the same record that San Francisco has. It's a division right now that I believe is up for grabs. They got Seattle next week, and all of a sudden you're right back into things with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua being back in the fold last night for the Rams. And that's what they did. The Rams win. They're back to 3-4, and both Nacua and Kupp are out there last night. Nacua, 7 catches for 106 yards, 15.1 per catch on 9 targets. Cooper Kupp, 5 catches, 51 yards, 10.2 per catch, and a touchdown for Cooper Kupp last night. So those two guys making a pretty large difference in the offense.
Yeah, I got to say, Charles is right. It's kind of like just don't play the game, and then this trade could really happen. But you know, the Vikings come away. I mean, I didn't think Darnold was bad. Darnold was still pretty good. They had protection issues, and Darisaw gets hurt, and even before that, they had some protection issues. But I look at the Rams, and man, when you put Kupp and Nacua both out there, and you know, Kyron Williams, underrated player in this league, man, I tell you what, that's a pretty good football team.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, after watching that last night, I think Charles is dead on. They're going to be like, shoot, why can't we do something? They do play the Seahawks next. You know, maybe they get thumped by the Seahawks. By the way, the Byron Young big play, although it ripped his face mask and right by the ref, and he totally missed it. But it sealed the game. But you know, maybe they get thumped by the Seahawks and they go back into, because that's still before the trading deadline. They could go back into, okay, maybe not. But I mean, if they win that game, I'd say they're full speed ahead.
Yep, you got the Seahawks, the Dolphins are their next 2 games here, and then the Patriots after that. So an interesting stretch here for the Rams. Look, you know, another example of Stafford made a couple of throws last night where I was just like, yep, he's still got it. He's still a pretty darn good player. Yeah. He ends up 25 of 34, 279, 4 touchdown passes to 1 interception. Quarterback rating of 124.5 for Stafford.
Yeah, and even a couple sort of throwback escapes because he's less mobile than he used to be for sure.
Yeah.
Escapes leading to big throws. Yeah, he's still very, very good.
Yep, no doubt about that. So the Rams get to 3-4 on Thursday Night Football last night. DeAndre Hopkins practicing with the Kansas City Chiefs. yesterday. It looks like he's going to play on Sunday against the Raiders. Now we'll see, how many snaps he plays and what that all looks like. But Hopkins also addressing the media yesterday and had some interesting comments that, while 100% true, did make Titans fans look around a little bit yesterday and say, man, I guess he's right. Here's what DeAndre Hopkins had to say at Kansas City Chiefs practice yesterday.
It means a lot. It takes your game to a different level. It takes your focus, your drive, knowing that you're playing for something. It takes your game to a different level. I haven't played meaningful football in a couple years since, we probably started 8-0 in Arizona. So, it takes your game to a different level.
Haven't played meaningful football in a couple of years. And, Joe, it's hard to argue with that because, as we know, a lot of losing has gone on around here the last few years. But it hurts when you say it out loud. And some Titans fans were looking at it yesterday like, man, the truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah. Now, he did, of course, and I'm sure, sure he was going to do this anyway, but maybe it was like, oh, that was mean. So he tweeted, "Thank you, Nashville, for bringing joy on and off the field. Nashville will forever be home."
There you go.
So
we have not seen the last of DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. And I think it was Mike Herndon. If it wasn't, I apologize. But it was somebody in the Titans, stratosphere or, Titans world who said basically one of the quickest connection with fans players, and for sure. I mean, Hopkins is just cool. He's just a cool guy, and so he did. He made an impact here in a short period of time. Then he also played. I mean, they had some big games when he was here, right? They had a couple good wins, right? Last year, what were their big wins? I mean, he played a meaningful game where the rookie looked amazing. There's that.
He did.
Does that count?
Weren't they like 1-3 or something at that point? Or like, I don't know I can't remember what they were at that point.
It's probably. I think they were deeper in the season.
I think they were
right?
too.
Yeah. So, well, it's pretty much true, man. So does this mean? But does that also mean he was playing like 80% here?
I don't know.
Is he going to go Kansas City and just absolutely set the world on fire?
They do the wide receiver translator on DVD where people say things and then D-Mace translates it into what they actually mean. I heard some of that yesterday and was like, yeah, I also haven't played with like a high-level quarterback that could put the ball where it needs to be in a couple of years either. So that'll be nice to have coming up.
Yeah.
Although Mahomes, by the numbers, doesn't look very good this year.
Well, that's true.
Maybe he's lost his fastball.
Is he even the best quarterback in his division?
I don't know. It's a good question. The numbers would say no.
That Bo Nix, man.
Yeah.
Looking pretty good.
Yeah, he is. Yes. 4-3, those Denver Broncos.
God. They looked to actually.
Maybe Hopkins is enough to keep the Broncos at bay for long enough for Kansas City.
That's really why they made this trade.
Probably so.
They're worried about the Broncos and the Harpster
coming
on.
Absolutely. Now I think he's going to play Sunday. I'm interested to see how it goes. Like he practices yesterday. Practice today. I'm sure. I don't know specifically how different Kansas City's offense and terminology and all that stuff is. I would assume it's pretty different. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. But like, how ready to go can Hopkins be in like basically 4 days in Kansas City? I'm interested to see.
Yeah. I mean, a guy like him, yeah, I'd say pretty ready. I bet he's ready to play 30 plus snaps, make a few plays. Who the heck do they have? They're at the Raiders. Yeah, they're at the lowly Raiders. So I'm sure he can go out there and just be like,
DeAndre, we're going to have you run straight. I'm going to throw you the ball.
Well, it's like Amari Cooper. Like, what is this? Yeah, run the post. Oh, okay. All right, touchdown. Yeah. So I'm sure he'll be fine and involved, and they'll be 7-0.
I would imagine that's probably the case. Liam on the text line says the first few games this year were supposed to be meaningful. So does that mean he was out on Levis before the season began?
Oh, there we go.
Liam on the text line.
Let's take some leaps.
I like it.
Yeah,
maybe so.
No, the thing is,
the first game was meaningful for the Titans this year.
Yeah, and they should have won. And in all seriousness, you go back and look at some of the stuff that Hopkins has said about Levis. And here's the thing about Hopkins. He'll be missed. Certainly, I know by the media here too. He's not a BSer, man.
No.
I mean, he's just straight up, just look at you and just kind of monotone, just tell you what he thinks. And he had some really strong endorsements of Levis, along the way early on, so doesn't mean much now. But back then when he was saying it last year, that was also part of what we were watching from Levis. Pretty good. There was some promising stuff. And then Hopkins is out here really, like saying some strong stuff in support of him. And
Yep.
I mean, I took it seriously.
Well, in the meantime, if you're the Titans, now you're going on the road at Detroit without him in the fold, and obviously without Ernest Jones in the fold as well. The injury report this week for the Titans, Calvin Ridley's been on it with a foot, has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday. And it sounds like he's probably going to play on Sunday, but we'll see. Jeffrey Simmons has been on there with rest, so the normal veteran rest day. He was back out there yesterday. Snead with the quad still has not practiced, so you got that going into this week. So some interesting injury news to keep your eye on if you're the Titans. One interesting note, Joe, Cedric Gray has been a full participant the last 2 days with the shoulder injury he's been dealing with. So maybe an opportunity for him coming up.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm sure it's Gibbons, right?
For sure.
But moving forward here, and of course, Baker,
it'd be nice to see if
Baker gets
in
the mix, and then at some point this season, you'd think he'd get some snaps, and start to work on that, because I think that's probably the plan. Is that they hope that they can pair him with Kenneth Murray moving forward.
615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. We brought up the game against Detroit. How bad could this one get? We'll take your thoughts on that. It's on paper, not a great matchup for the Tennessee Titans. We'll look at it next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
when you talk about teams getting the ball out fast against you, is there anything that you can do as a defense to make teams not want to do that, or is that just something that the offense controls?
I mean, the offense has the ball, so they can control what they want to control. The ball gets out fast, but it also plays in our favor as well. We don't give up a lot of passing yards. When they pass the ball, we sticky on contact, so we make them earn it, so they can get it out, but are they willing to matriculate the ball down the field for 80 yards?
That was Denard Wilson yesterday, channeling his inner Hank Stram, matriculating the ball down the field. I love that.
That's good.
Anytime you can do that.
Do you know what else is good? This text on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Anyone ever figure out how to keep the inside of your windshield clean? Bleeping tired of this bleep. You know what, man? There is
the only text in the history of this number that we have on the text line is that.
Yeah. You know what? We're here for you. I will say that I used to have like a little spray that I had inside one of my cars to do that, and I don't anymore. So sometimes I just, we'll take some glass cleaner and spray it with some paper towel.
I have a little bit of a tip too. Go buy like one of those wands, and you can kind of just. It's a lot easier than having to use your arm and get in there, and it feels awkward.
Did you say wands? Are we talking Harry Potter here?
Yeah, like because if you use a wand, then like you don't have to try to I don't know. It's a lot. It's not as awkward. No.
No, I mean it sounds cool. I just don't know. It's a wand that has then like a.
Okay,
you can attach a.
It'll sound weird, but think about it this way. You know how like you could clean your toilet bowl with like the wand that's like that.
I mean,
imagine one.
Cleaner.
Yeah, imagine one that you could put that you could hey, clean the windshield on the inside. That way you can just kind of stretch across.
Okay,
and get it clean.
So is it just that like anything that's like a stick you call a wand?
No.
Okay.
I'm just trying to describe it like that.
Okay. All right.
Why would I say stick?
I don't know. I don't know. This is very interesting.
This is one of the greatest texts we've ever received, I think, on the text line.
It is.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Wait, why did you?
No, I did
the
not.
One
Text
did you text?
Thank you for that.
Nick Keyser burners out there texting about the bleeping windshield.
You could find my number pretty quickly.
All right.
I'm going to compare this to your number here. Hold on.
The Titans, 11.5-point underdogs heading into the matchup on Sunday. So as we discussed earlier this week, when it was a lowly 10.5, that's a massive number in the National Football League. You've traded away DeAndre Hopkins. Ernest Jones now gone. I brought up some of the injury question marks that the Titans have heading in this week. The good news is Jameson Williams is not going to be playing. So maybe the line, if he was, would be like 12.5. Who knows? But 11.5-point dogs to the Lions on the road this week. And I think a lot of Titans fans, based on the way that this season has gone, the way the Buffalo game went last week, are looking around and saying, how bad could this get on Sunday? And I have a feeling, Joe, it might get pretty bad.
It might. Now, I will say this. There are a couple things about this matchup that I'm interested in to see if the Titans can do well. One of them is, look, the Lions, like someone texted, like apparently everybody who's played the Lions the next week they lose. That's does that mean anything or not? I don't know. But it's relevant because the Lions are a very physical football team on offense. I think the Titans are built on defense to not let them run all over them. And the Lions have had some ridiculous running totals this year. They have two fantastic backs. They have one of the best offensive lines. It might be the best offensive line. I hesitate to call it the best offensive line because left tackle Taylor Decker is good, but he's not great. But their right tackle, I think it might be the best football player in the NFL. Seriously. He's ridiculous.
Wow.
I mean, like he's
pretty darn good.
No one will ever call that. I seriously, he's insane. They're a very physical team that bullies people. I don't know that the Titans are going to get bullied. I think the Titans should take this as a heck of a challenge and say, you know what, we're not going to get bullied. And if they don't run us ragged, then all their play action stuff isn't as effective. And maybe you can get after Jared Goff. Jared Goff is completely immobile, but he's protected well. It's hard to get pass rush on them. And that's, the Titan, like a guy like Landry has to show out.
Yeah.
You need the interior guys to get sacks. I want to see sacks from Sweat. Sacks. By the way, Stilly's chickening out on coming on here today.
He is.
But
No Stilly.
I'm interested in the Titans defense against this Lions offense, which is the strength of the Lions. I mean, I think it might be the best offense in the league. But, you take out their deep threat, and they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's great. Their tight end's great. It's like, then you got Khalif Raymond and Tim Patrick. They're not on paper, they have a great OC. I think the Titans defense can do better in this game than some defenses have done against the Lions.
Last 3 weeks for the Lions, they scored 42 against Seattle, 47 against Dallas, 31 against Minnesota. They're humming right now on the offensive side of the ball. Now, granted, Williams has been a part of that, right? Like, he's made some big plays in 2 of those games for
not
sure.
Last week.
Not last week, but 2 of those games for sure.
Right.
So, how much does that hinder their offense? I don't know. Look, I am interested to see, like, can the Titans stop their running game? Like, we talked about it earlier this year. Nobody runs the ball in the Tennessee Titans, and then Green Bay ran the ball for like $150 or whatever they did on the Tennessee Titans. So you can run the ball on the Titans. I'm interested to see, though, to your point, like, did the Titans accept that challenge this week? And mentally, heading into this game, like, I think this is a good barometer to see how some of your leadership responds, right? You're 1-5. You just traded off 2 veteran players. Are you going to sit up there and just pack it in and get beat by 40 this week? I'm interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I am too. Is anybody going to be pissed off and play like it? Because I think that would be probably a good thing. The other side of the ball, the Lions, again, they don't have edge rushing.
Right.
They lost their best defensive player in Aiden Hutchinson. They have not replaced him. So they're good. They're good on defense. They have a good secondary. They've upgraded the secondary. They can be sticky in coverage. But I do feel like Mason Rudolph, is he officially been named?
I don't know if it's been
gonna be
official,
Mason
but he's
Rudolph.
going to play. Yeah.
I think that he could potentially have some time to throw in this game too. Running the ball may be tough. They are good up front against the run. They're not. They just don't have an edge rusher right now.
Yeah,
they really don't. So, look, if the Titans have the proper psychological approach and are like, okay, I'm sick of this. Whoever's in this locker room, who else wants to go up and shut everybody up? The Lions just naturally, they've had some big games. They got the Packers ahead. This is psychologically on their side. This is absolutely when you would see a team let up. You'd see a team let up in preparation a little bit, right? It's like, oh, the Titans suck. It's human nature. So in this league, whenever there's any element like that, I'm always interested because there's just no result in this league that's really that shocking. I'm telling you, there's a chance, is what I'm saying.
Wow. This one would be pretty close to shocking.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. Like, it's the NFL. Like, we saw the Titans beat a pretty darn good Houston Texans team with, what was it, Blaine Gabbert at quarterback and like their 4th string offensive tackle, and
they didn't
Kevin Byard throwing
they didn't have their top
passes.
3 tackles.
Right. So,
right.
And things happen.
There was no reason to think with Deshaun Watson playing like Deshaun Watson,
like an actual good football player.
Yeah.
Jared from Spring Hill says they're going to have 3 times as many possessions as we are. It's from Jared from Spring Hill on the text line. This would be a game that would be really nice if you're the Titans. Number 1, to hold on to the football. Don't just give it away to them. And number 2, like, if you could, stretch out a couple of 7-minute drives, that'd probably be nice in this game. Keep the ball away from Jared Goff in that offense.
Yeah, no, for sure. You definitely want to try to keep it out of their hands. Sean from Murray, Kentucky is talking about inner windshield filth. So we're really getting philosophical here.
Yeah.
Someone asked, do you feel like there's an audition for Harold Landry for the Lions? Again, sorry. Like I said, yeah, look, if Harold Landry goes up there and sacks Goff a couple times and the Lions are sitting there, I think the Max Crosby is the pie in the sky, but at some point you might start to get a little desperate. Just saying. So, like Landry, if he goes out and has a sack and a half, 2 sacks Sunday, Lions making the call after the game of, hey, Rand, we'll give you a 1st-round pick, Harold Landry.
Both GMs will be in the building. Why call?
That's true. You can just run over.
I believe they used to work together.
I believe you're correct.
So, yeah. Just make it happen right there and leave them there. Make it easy for them.
There you go. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans and Lions matchup a little bit later in the program. The choice is yours with Nick Keiser in the questions chair coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
We all have choices to make. Like right now. It's The Choice Is Yours, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for The Choice Is Yours. Normally on Wednesday morning at 6:30, but DeAndre Hopkins got traded on Wednesday morning, and we were discussing that at 6:30, so moved it back to Friday this week. Nick Keyser in the questions chair. Nicholas, the floor is yours. I turn it over to you.
You guys want sports or non-sports?
Sports.
Okay. Our first one of the morning, World Series starts this evening.
It does.
So I just want to ask a quick relative question to that because we don't talk too much baseball, but I have somewhat of a big interest in this because I have not seen the World Series in a while through and through. But would you rather see the Yankees finally get back with a big old championship in New York, or would you rather see the Dodgers continue to just tear things away, pay all their players big, and win yet another championship?
Oh, are we calling the Yankees a small market Yankees now? Is that what you're saying?
No,
The poor
not
little
necessarily.
Yankees. Always
underdog.
root against the Yankees. Hate the Yankees. The only team I hate more than the Yankees is the Chicago White Sox, but I hate the Yankees, and I'll never root for the Yankees. Go Dodgers. Go Jimmy Wyatt.
Congratulations
to Jimmy Wyatt.
Congratulations to Jimmy Wyatt, by the way.
And Johnny Ballpark Franks. Two of the three. I know I forget the third person. I apologize, but Tennessee Sports Writers Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, my real answer is I want neither of them to win because there's a lot of things about them that are very similar. I mean, you're talking about teams that spend a ton of money and all that stuff. I will say I am fascinated by the matchup. I talked me and PK were talking a few weeks ago, and I was like, if it's not going to be my beloved Detroit Tigers, who I adopted, I would like to see Yankees-Dodgers. I think this is probably Major League Baseball's dream matchup in the World Series. So I'm looking forward to see it. I'd like to see when you see somebody as great as Ohtani, like you'd like to see him get one. And I mean, my real answer and tiebreaker here is I'm a big Mookie Betts fan, so I'll be rooting for Mookie Betts to win what I believe would be his third World Series. So, yep, I'll go Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, anybody in Nashville who isn't attached to the Yankees should be rooting for them just because of Mookie Betts.
Yeah. That's my answer.
Screw the Yankees. I hope you agree.
I do tend to lean more with the Dodgers in this series for sure. Mookie is a good storyline here locally. Not only that, but I'm a huge fan of Freddie Freeman as well.
Mookie hit a baseball off me about 430
That's
feet.
right.
That was
yeah.
fun.
Nice. What was the pitch?
That was fastball right down the middle,
Yeah.
and he ended up right over there.
There you go.
Yeah. That ball went far. How about that? That guy, who's that guy? Oh,
I appreciate you not trying to pitch around him. Just here.
Nah,
Serve it up, man.
I don't know
Here.
if I ever intentionally pitched around anyone in my life. you hit me.
Yeah.
See if
Prove
you can
it.
do it. That's
Prove
right.
it.
All right. Our first non-sports
Got in the box
question.
one time against Sonny Gray,
Oh,
too.
here we
And it was
go.
like 99 down the middle, and I was like,
Down memory lane.
I'm not going to hit that. All right. Anyway, sorry, Nick.
No, you're fine.
Good baseball around here.
Hey, man, better storytelling this morning. But first non-sports question with Halloween coming up next week. Would you rather have a couple of king-size bars from a few houses trick-or-treating, or when you go house to house, would you rather grab as much as possible?
So you're saying like
Right.
normal, regular size, king size candy bar,
Mhm.
or like when you're going house to house, just dump in all the
Mhm.
small stuff.
Yep.
I will say, as a child, there was this specific neighborhood in Hendersonville where like this stretch of houses, like 7 or 8 of them, gave out full size, like king size candy bars. And I will say it was a very popular destination.
Oh, I bet.
Trick or treating. So that's my answer.
I know exactly where you're going to.
I'll take the king size bars.
Yeah, for sure. No, me too. King size. And, Halloween, it's funny because a lot of falls I'll be real healthy until I get to Halloween, and then I start eating all my kids' Halloween candy. Now they don't any of them trick or treat anymore. This
That's
might
really
be
done for
last year. It might be done. I don't know. Freshman in high school.
It's just beginning for me.
I don't know. Yeah. And this year I'm going to flip it around, and I'm not going to eat any candy because it's been a rough fall on the health front.
Yeah.
So I would take big size now because then maybe you can't finish one and then it gets stale and you eat less candy. If you have all the little candy, then you can just eat it all the time.
See, I
See
feel
what
like
I'm saying?
the little candy is easier to excuse as well because it's like, oh, it's not that much. Like it just, and then all of a
Yes.
sudden you've had 16 of them, and
Right, like
It's over.
I can eat like seriously like 20 little those little Mr. Good bars, little
Oh, yeah.
yellow Mr. Good bars. But yeah, it's like it's just a little thing,
Yeah.
it's a little guy. It's like 2 calories,
Right.
And then you have 20,
Yeah, that little thing's probably like 50 calories.
50 probably,
probably.
yeah, 30, yeah, something like that.
it's like,
I
wow,
re-
I just put down 20 of them in one sitting. How about that?
There is merit to both of the answers for sure. But I remember growing up when my brothers and I went trick-or-treating in my neighborhood, we did try to just grab all the small candy and then we would trade, which will allude to my other question. But I do like,
Trading.
huh?
Trading. Wow.
Yeah,
How
we
about that?
Yeah,
I
we
never
did
did
that
that.
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I liked grabbing as much small candy, and I was the house where if we were not home, then we'd leave out candy and then you could take as much as you want because we weren't home. So,
Okay.
but anyway, so our final sports question of the morning, would you rather have like a big hot lap like we saw with Zach LaRue, or is there something else unique that you would do perhaps in a different sport? It was a poorly phrased thought process for
We're
me.
talking like for debut.
Yeah, for like a big debut in any pro sport, would you rather kind of have a hot lap moment esque with a different
I'm trying to think of
sport,
what
or-
they do in other sports. Like
That-
hockey is kind of its own thing.
Exactly.
I mean, you got the walk up song, I guess, in
Right.
baseball.
Right.
Come up with something obscene.
Yeah.
Get people's attention. I'd rather, like be able to have a touchdown dance, and then I would
There's that.
gotta be.
That's a good
prepared.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, the hot lap. I think the hot lap is probably underutilized. Like, remember when the Capitals were in the Cup final, and old Barry Trotz did the hot lap? It got the people going.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
go
know
look it
that.
up. Right in the middle, like in the middle of the. I can't remember if it was the final, or I think it was the final, but it was Barry Trotz hot lap after the morning skate. Gets the people going. That would be what I would do. I think it's underutilized.
Hot lap is pretty sweet.
Hot
Yeah.
lap's pretty sweet.
I think it is pretty sweet too.
And the fact that LaRue did it no helmet too.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Really
Most
made it
kids
better.
are doing it no bucket, but
Craig
then they go put it on.
McTavish,
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah.
Lanny
Gregory.
McDonald.
Yeah. Well, we
What a
have
sweet
our.
stash that guy had.
He did have a pretty
Love
sweet
crispy.
stash.
Loved him some crispy.
He did.
Curl up that mustache too, I'm sure. Our final non-sports question of the morning, like I had just mentioned, sticking to the Halloween theme here. So what's more flattering on Halloween? Is it to have the best costume at a party, or taking home the most candy? And like I said, getting to trade for your favorites.
Oh, candy for sure. There were times where I think I decided my Halloween costume like an hour before we walked out the door, and I just looked around the house and was like, what can I kind of squeeze together here? I never really cared too much about the costume. The candy is what it's about. So candy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I most years I'm the same way. Every once in a while, I'll hit by inspiration. 3 years ago, went to an adult Halloween party that we friends of ours who throw them every year, and I was very proud of my. I went as the Tennessee end zone,
Yes.
with like a pack of cigarettes and all the stuff that had been thrown in.
Mustard
by the
bottle.
balls. Yeah, of course, a mustard bottle attached to it. I was pretty proud of that. But
That's pretty good.
You wore Velcro?
well, I glued stuff on this sweatshirt that was the end zone. I was just a big end zone. But yeah, for the most part, I will go candy. I want to bring in a. Well, go ahead. You give me your answer. And then I do have a Brian Summers Halloween question I want to sneak in here.
Go ahead. Yeah. But I typically was always trying to look as best as possible in Halloween. Out, given I stopped doing any Halloween things around like 7th grade because I just got fed up with it, honestly. But I did like dressing up. And I remember one time I was the pirate from the Wiggles. And then I was also Captain America and Spider-Man. Very big years for me growing up. I was
Wow.
very small, but those were very big years for me.
Nice. Yeah, I had some Batman years for sure. Yeah, so Brian Summers says, do you prefer to actually answer the door or just put a wagon or basket out front if given the choice on Halloween night?
Well, here's my question. Here's my question in response to that. Does anyone actually trick or treat anymore? Like in my neck of the woods, it is non-existent. Like it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, we have a ton.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know if it's a Sumner County thing, Robertson County thing. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Really?
Yeah. Like there's no one.
Huh. Do they do Devil's Night?
I don't know what goes on around there. You got to watch out for maybe our neighbors a little bit. But I know the trunk or treat is now a very popular thing. where you show up somewhere, whether it's a church or like some car dealerships do it up there, and everybody shows up to the same location, and you just kind of have like a little soiree, a get together with a bunch of candy there.
And then you
But
just leave with a bunch of candy.
yeah,
That kind of seems like cheating.
I mean, I think so
I
too.
think you got to earn it. Got to go door to door, man.
That's what we did growing up. I mean, I guess my answer would be I'd rather be at the door, but no one ever comes to my house. So
I'd rather be at the door too. That's
don't know
what
what
I
to tell you.
did. Like I just said, I stopped going around 7th grade. I'd put hockey jerseys on my dogs, and then I'd hand out candy. I would stay home alone.
Yeah, my thing is I'd rather that our house answer and give people candy and be like that, but I just don't want to personally do it. So if my kids don't want to trick or treat, then you stand there and give out the candy.
that's right.
Put the kids to work is my answer.
There you go.
Brian Summers.
This has been The Choice is Yours. You can check it out normally on Wednesdays at 6:30. This time on Friday at 6:30.
Thanks,
Changing
D-Hop.
up every now and then.
A meaningful addition.
Yes.
Just for D-Hop.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Vanderbilt taking on Texas tomorrow. And while they're not the number one team in the country, can Vanderbilt do it again? Can they pull it off again at home? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Tune in to Sports Talk, 8:30 a.m. this Sunday for coverage of the Straight Talk Wireless 400. Coverage will begin at 12:30. Race sets to start at 1:30. Coverage also available at theGameNashville.com. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Over the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. A big game coming up tomorrow in our city, Joe Rexrode. You will be there. Texas taking on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt trying to pull it off again. So they take down Alabama with the greatest win in Vanderbilt history earlier this year. And while Texas loses last week against Georgia and is not the number 1 team in the country, they are number 5 and are squarely right now in the mix for the SEC, the college football playoff, all those things. So obviously another big game tomorrow for Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia and company. Vanderbilt is an 18.5-point underdog in this game, which is less of an underdog than they were heading into the Alabama game, by the way. So keep that in mind. But what do you make of this matchup? What do you make of the chances for Vanderbilt to do this again and pull off another stunning upset at home, this time against Texas?
I'm excited for it, and I think it's going to be an interesting football game. You know, I can't like the Vanderbilt defensive matchup against Texas. You know, it's just, and Texas has lost some running backs, but they're loaded. They're loaded up front. Now, Isaiah Bond apparently is likely not to play for Texas. Good receiver, who, of course, previously was at Alabama. That's a loss, but they've got a lot of skill, a lot of talent still at running back, a lot of talent. Now, interesting thing about Texas, Steve Sarkisian has really been very, very clear and hardline about Quinn Ewers, the quarterback, Arch Manning's backup. And then last week, they're struggling so much, he puts in Arch late in the first half. And, of course, people are going nuts. I mean, 75% of the Texas fan base has Arch jerseys while Quinn Ewers, leads their team.
Yep.
And then he doesn't do anything, and they go back to Quinn Ewers. So now it's like, wait a minute, what are you doing here? Now, look, maybe he doesn't care, but, that is opening a little bit of a can of worms.
It is.
So I don't know. Is there something there that could be tricky for them? I'll say this about Texas. Look, it wasn't long ago. I think I probably uttered on this show. Are they the best team? They might be the best team in college football. Who have they beaten? Because when they won at Michigan at the time, it was like, oh, wow, impressive. Well, Michigan stinks. And Georgia just went in there and kicked their butt and physically handled them. Again, does this mean that Vanderbilt will? No, but I'm just saying we may have overvalued Texas a little bit. Again, though, their offense is loaded.
They're really good. The question is how good, right? They've hammered everyone until last week when they lost to Georgia.
It's just like hammering Oklahoma is something that South Carolina now does in Norman. Oklahoma is not a bad game that you can measure yourself against. So, look, as with everyone on Vanderbilt's schedule, I absolutely believe their offense will move the ball, will make plays, will score points. I think that they will. I mean, I from what I've seen from them, obviously from Diego Pavia, but also Eli Stowers he's moving up that draft board, and their offense is the whole key, right? They have to get on an absolute heater and put Texas in a blender and keep Texas guessing and be a step ahead of them all day. And if they do, then they could get this into a shootout, and it could be really interesting. I struggle to see Vanderbilt with a lot of stops against that offense.
I do too. I think the game plan probably needs to be pretty similar to what it has been pretty much every week for Vanderbilt, but specifically in the Alabama game, which is move the ball, hold on to the ball, sustain long drives, and then finish them off with touchdowns. That's what they did against Alabama. Excuse me. And then they got the one pick six. And that was really, that was the main.
Yeah, that was the main difference is that they get that pick six, you get a 2-score lead. And so now you're playing from it. Obviously, something like that is so huge, but they just get, and you're right. What they do is, you have to honor the speed option stuff. And now they got the shovel pass, and now they're just going to run a straight hand up. And so they're going to get you in 3rd and 3.
Game's making me emotional over here.
I know, right? Yeah. You're getting all choked up. But they get you in 3rd and 3 all day. And then it's like, okay, well, now you got to honor everything. Pavia can certainly run for that. They might run QB power now. Pavia will make a big throw. or on first down, they'll play action. I mean, I just love their offense is so diverse and creative, and so far it is mostly kept ahead of teams. I didn't get to watch last week much. I don't know how they only scored 24 points, but I do think there's some playing to the level opponent that goes on here.
I think there's some of that. I'll say this on the Pavia front. I don't know how you couldn't be just overly excited to watch him play tomorrow, right? Like he rose to that moment against Alabama. And I think with some players around the country, you ask yourself, like when the lights get real bright, does the spotlight become too much? And I think he's the type of guy that thrives in that scenario. So that doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and beat Texas again tomorrow, but I would be surprised if he doesn't play well tomorrow. Like I think Pavia is going to make some plays in this game. He's going to make some big throws. He's going to keep some drives alive with his legs. And that guy, he has just been an absolute menace for the opposition all year long. And I don't expect that to change tomorrow against Texas. I think he and that offense will rise to the moment.
Absolutely. And the thing about him is, most quarterbacks, we make these jokes. Remember like Tannehill with the Dolphins, we always do the one-handed push-up thing, right? Oh yeah, Ryan Tannehill's really pumped for the Dolphins, right? Well, he's a quarterback. Like, you have to read the field and you have to play quarterback. The way Pavia plays, he actually can play like a linebacker. So, he can actually, they're going to run him a lot. He can put his head down and just try to bowl you over and like intimidate you. Wait, this little dude just like blasted me off the ball. So yeah, he will show up to play. Absolutely. He will bring the swagger. He sets the tone for that team. It's been amazing to watch. So much fun. I wish we had more than 1 year of this. Then he's got to be obviously efficient, and he's going to have to make some big time throws too, which is what he did against Bama. That fourth down, he has to go through progressions because they were trying to do something short, and he flips it up to the end zone, and it's a TD. I mean, like, you got to have some plays like that to have a chance in this game.
LD from McMinnville says Vandy is about to be reminded that they're still Vandy. Time to be humbled. This is from LD from McMinnville. Weston Clarksville says, will Texas still be in the playoff hunt if they lose to Vandy? The thing is, yes, they will be.
Boy,
it'll be a tough one. But I mean, look, to me, you get to the end of that and you're like, how in the world did this team lose to Georgia State?
Yeah.
But it's also like that starts to become we talked about good losses the other day. Like, it's starting to become a good loss, right? Like Vanderbilt's a ranked team. So it's not as damaging as a loss to Vanderbilt would be, like, on paper looking at it heading into the season. Because, I mean, if Vanderbilt wins this game, what are they going to be next week?
Well, they're a ranked team.
17? 15?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, if Vanderbilt wins this game, then you can start talking about them with everything.
Exactly.
Even with the Georgia State loss, and if you win out, you're in there too.
Yeah.
You're in the SEC title race, depending on how there's a death scenario of, like, I think it's like, I know somebody at the Athletics writing this, but it's like 6 or 7 teams with 2 losses for the top. I mean, it's just amazing. I think it includes this game. LD, you may be right. You may be. But their offense is not. It's no joke, man. They're going to score points against Texas. I'm confident. I need to see how they get stops, and they need to do something like you said, the tip pick against Bama. They need something like that to give them an extra possession, if not a couple.
I will say, though, you guys were all over me for not going with Vanderbilt in any of our pigskin pick'em picks. And I finally did last week.
You locked him up.
Nothing.
I know. They'd like you to continue to go back to picking against them, please.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait till 8:30. See how that goes.
Yeah.
Today on the program. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on Vanderbilt and Texas. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. We'll be joined by Teron Davenport at 8 o'clock. Get his thoughts on the Titans and the Lions coming up this weekend. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Normally joined by Stilly at this time. Not today, though. He's out of town. Or he's dodging Rexrode.
Right.
One of the two. We'll let you be the judge.
Chicken Stilly. I tell you what, I had something really nice planned for him too, but I guess we'll just bag
Yes.
it. I found some receipts, but we'll just leave it alone right now.
Postpone it.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, it's kind of petty. It's kind of this type of stuff he would do. So I kind of feel like I've dirtied myself, kind of like our texter's windshield, the inner filth.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just leave it alone. But boy, that guy, I tell you what, talking about both sides of your mouth.
A 9-minute run.
I'm so glad we made that a drop. Like that needs to be reminded every once in a while. He actually made up a 9-minute run.
It was pretty awesome.
Like a minute and a half.
It's pretty good.
Stilly.
A lot of texts rolling in on Vandy. I got one texter. How insane would it be if Vandy wins the SEC title and gets a top 4 spot in the NCAA tournament? Got Mr. G saying Vanderbilt's not beating Texas this weekend, but they might be able to beat Tennessee at the end of the year. There's a few big games coming up for Vandy. Texas, on the road at LSU, home against Tennessee, close things out.
I'll tell you that right now. I mean, look, anything this season's insane. I mean, Army and Navy are like the best they've been in a century, and Indiana's undefeated. Okay,
yeah.
I mean, among many other things. I think right now I would like Vandy. I do like Vandy if they're playing tomorrow, either team, a little bit more against Texas and against Tennessee, just because Tennessee, I mean, they're just so athletic up front, and the other side though, it's interesting. I mean, Texas's offense right now is definitely better, but
yes,
in both cases, look, Vanderbilt's defense is the question. In both cases, I think Vanderbilt's offense still will have some success, and then you can make it interesting. We'll see.
We will see. Going to be interesting to see what Vanderbilt's able to do this weekend. Joe, we've talked a lot about Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker this week, by the way. Unless I've missed something, I still don't see any sign of either one of them talking this week. So there's that to look at. And Willie and Chase were talking a lot about that yesterday. We can get into that a little bit later in the show. But a lot of talk about the job performance of Carthon and Chad Brinker and where things go from here. I mean, it's clear that the Titans aren't going anywhere this year. They're 1-5. They've started to sell off here with Hopkins and Ernest Jones being traded this week. Who knows what it looks like over the next week or so? We'll see if more moves are made for them. But obviously, this season is not going to end well for the Titans. They're not going to make the playoffs. As at the moment, they're in contention for the number 1 overall pick. There's still a long way to go in the NFL season. But at the moment, it kind of feels like they're going to be in contention for that as the season moves along here. And it was an offseason of change, an offseason of a lot of money spent by the Tennessee Titans. And depending on who you asked, some expectation heading into the year. And it's not going to live up to anywhere close to that. So the question is, what does it all mean? And how much blame goes on Carthon? How much blame goes on Brinker? How much patience do you display if you're a Titans fan and or more importantly, the owner, Amy Adams Strunk? There's a lot of questions left to answer on that front. What do we make of the moves that have actually been made by these guys to this point? And how do we let that kind of signal what may be coming with the moves that are still yet to be made from Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker, and this front office?
Yeah. Well, and first of all, I do feel like, in all seriousness on Stilly, I do feel like we almost have it's a couple weeks from the election, like spin jobs, like this way is clearly right, or now this way is clearly right, right? That's what it is when you have an election, when you have, two sides. Everything on the other side is bad, everything on my side is good, and vice versa.
Right.
And I'm seeing, and Brian Summers actually came on our text line earlier, is one of the people kind of pushing this idea of look at the Lions, look at some of these, and then Stilly is very much basically nothing good has happened, right? I mean, that's kind of where he is. I mean, again, correct me if I don't listen every second. Maybe I'm missing some segments where he acknowledges. It just feels like spin. It's like, there are some good things they've done, I believe.
I will say, though, he Kuharski did this piece at paulkuharski.com kind of comparing this year's team to the
pretty fascinating
Wisenhunt team. It is pretty wild, like how
Yeah.
close a lot of that is.
It is. But some of it is just like circumstantial and
Right.
coincidental, right? The fact that they drafted a guard
Right.
who was bad, and they already had the left and all that stuff. Yes. No, it's fascinating. And also, someone pointed out a couple weeks ago, I think, or maybe last week, it's like 04, 14, 24.
Yeah.
Like the cycle of this franchise is that basically when a 4 is at the end of the year,
You're going to be
just cheap. You're bottoming out, basically. But, so first of all, I'm more on Stilly's side, by the way, in the argument with Brian Summers when it comes to like the Lions. It's a tough comparison because, yes, there's patience with all the losing. There's that. But how it came about is the Stafford trade, the Goff, multiple picks, incredible picks. And, it's just not this, right? There's some other rebuilds where there was patience. I agree with general, like patience is important, but it's also, you bring up Wisenhunt, and I'm with Stilly. I was actually going to give Stilly some compliments this morning, but he chickened out on coming on with us. Well, there's a great example of, well, gosh, it's only been 2 years. Well, no thanks.
Yeah.
Time to get him out. Now, again, from all I understand, too, he was a completely unbearable human.
Yes,
and that probably didn't help things. But what is the real evaluation of what they've done? Okay, so obviously there's two things. And look, I personally think they need to be – I understand it was Vrabel and Cowden here, like when the draft, and there are different people. But the bottom line is Rand Carthon was hired as GM. And so, to me, it's the two. He has 2 free agency periods on his name. He has 2 drafts on his name, and he has this record on his name. That's it.
Yep.
And Brinker, again, because, again, this is Amy Adams Strunk, making things confusing and weird. But, yeah, you consider them both together. I suppose there's always a chance that, like, one could be scapegoated and fired and the other consolidate his power. But it's the front office. It's Brinkathon, Ranchad, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a great. It's not like Vrabel.
No.
Vrabel was way better, or Vrayran.
Yeah.
But we don't have a catchy name with this.
Ramble.
What was it?
Ramble.
There you go. Ramble. Ramble on. So, okay, let's go with the drafts. Okay. We've talked about this, but again, it's hard to judge this draft. Last draft: Peter Skoronski, Will Levis, Tyjae Spears, Josh Wiley, Jalen Duncan, Colton Dowell. Wiley's pretty good, a 5th-round pick. Spears as a back in the 3rd round. There are a lot of things you can do in the 3rd round other than take a running back who right now is clearly your second best back.
Right.
Levis is obviously, as we said, it's defining the draft, and then Skoronski. I think Skoronski is a big thing here, continuing moving forward in the evaluation. And again, you don't have a lot of time, but it's like, okay, is he just sort of a guy out there? Does he become something this year where you're like, okay, that's a good player? I think it's 11th pick, man. We talked about that a million times. That is rich for a guard, and you better be a great guard if you're going to go there.
Well, he's not been so far.
No. And this year, Latham, Sweat, Cedric Gray, who we're about to see, Jarvis Brownlee again. They love the 5th round. Tip of the cap on the 5th-round picks for these guys. Jaquan Jackson actually in the 6th round isn't bad either. Then you have James Williams and Jalen Harrell. And even then for 7th-round flyers, not bad. But that's not where you judge a draft, right? It's obviously at the top. I just think the Latham pick is going to work out. I think it's going to be a good pick. And that's, I think, the biggest optimism point for people who want to support this front office is it's about the draft, and it's promising that they drafted like this. So far, the way it looks right now could change for sure. On any of these players, it could change. But the early returns are pretty good. So you feel like they could draft well again next year.
Yeah. The Levis part of it is that's what, to me, a lot of it boils down to as well, though. And that's where Callahan, I think, changes it, too. Because a lot of people have asked, well, like, these are the same guys that drafted Levis. So what makes you confident that they could draft another quarterback? And it's like, I get that. but you do have Callahan as a part of the mix now.
Your head coach
going
is
to be
a quarterback guy.
evaluating the quarterback.
Right. And I understand your head coach is a quarterback guy. And right now people are like, oh, is he? Well, look at this quarterback play.
Right.
But yes, that is what he is. That's what he has built his career on, working with quarterbacks. And so you're right. If they're drafting a quarterback in the next draft, you have his eyes now as opposed to Vrabel, who's not a quarterback guy.
Right. So does that mean that the quarterback pick, if they make one this next draft, is going to be a good one? No, doesn't necessarily mean that. But I'm just saying there is a different component now involved with it that they did not have with the Will Levis pick.
Yeah. So that's we're gonna have these questions. If they keep losing, it's just gonna, again, it's like, well, and Snead isn't playing or whatever. We're gonna get into free agency stuff, but you're gonna have that question. You want these guys making the pick? Well, I mean, that's a question for Amy Adams Strunk. But again, I do look at this last draft class, 1 through 7th round, a total of 7 picks, because they didn't have a 3rd round pick. And it looks like they did pretty good scouting to come up with these picks.
What do you make of Callahan, as David has thrown out on Twitter?
Yeah, well, if you use the we've done that before.
Yeah,
but I'm doing the Brinker thing.
Brinker.
Callahan, absolutely.
Yeah, 615-737-1025. We'll have more on this coming up next. Take your thoughts on the Titans on our phone and text lines, which as always are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, which are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. We've gone through the draft picks of the first couple of years of the Rand Carthon, Chad Brinker era here with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, that's the foundation of how you build your team, right? And that's, if the Titans are ever going to get back to being competitive, that's what's got to be the first thing, right? Like, you got to start drafting really, really well. You brought up the Lions, and yes, they've, the Goff trade and the picks associated with that have helped them get to this point. But think about how well they've drafted. Like, they've drafted really, really well.
Incredible.
Like, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round is pretty darn good stuff there.
Yeah, and getting God, why is the right tackle's name eluding me?
Penei Sewell.
Yeah, Sewell. Like, that was, again, that's a right tackle. That's a good right tackle story.
Yeah,
the Lions drafted Penei Sewell, the top 5 pick, and it worked out for him.
Worked out
Hutchinson, so the top of the draft, they're hitting middle round, second. I mean, getting, like, people rip the Gibbs pick last year.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. So let's go free agency with the Titans, and we'll go the last one, or the first one of Rand. Okay, some interesting stuff that you kind of forget about when you go through it. Some of these moves, for example, let's go early on. You get some releases like Taylor Lewan. It's funny to look back and see some of these players released. But signing Tier Tart and Aaron Brewer to second-round tenders. I do actually agree with Stilly again on that. It was a little rich for Brewer. Sean Murphy Bunting coming in at corner. The Jeffrey Simmons multi-year extension. Chris Moore receiver. Let's see, who else have you got in there? That's a big move. You've got
D-Hop later that offseason.
D-Hop later in the offseason. Chris Hubbard and some of these moves. I'm for some reason I'm missing here because I'm reading, this is like an ESPN rundown of all their transactions. But obviously, Azeez Al-Shaair also, and Arden Key also. So, these are kind of the big. It was a pretty low key free agency season for one thing. Murphy Bunting, not bad for a year. Chris Moore, not a bad. These are kind of nibbling around the edges moves for the most part.
Yep.
Very different from this last year. It was okay. I mean, like, nothing in there that was to me like terrible. But again, when you don't spend a lot and you don't really, you don't take big swings, as they didn't for whatever reason, then, there's not much really to praise or criticize. It was fine. Then, of course, you can look at other things like eventually trading Byard for a 5th and a 6th. You can look at the Derrick Henry thing too, which is a totally separate topic. And I think that's one to maybe talk about later. So then this last year, obviously, what are the big, we've talked about this over and over again. But just so we don't forget anything that they did in the last year. Let's remember that they re-signed NWI to a 1-year deal. Let's not forget that one.
Maybe worth another year for the front office just by itself.
Exactly. So the March 14th, 2024, Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry, Chidobe Awuzie, Kenneth Murray Jr. Also, by the way, Jack Gibbons to an exclusive rights tenure. Mm-hmm. Then you get to Sadiq Charles. You get to Mason Rudolph, Calvin Ridley. You release Andre Dillard, by the way. You I guess apparently re-signed Nick Folk in there, which is a good move. The big trade, of course, L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, that's the big one we're talking a lot about. Who else have you got in there? Tyler Boyd is another significant one in there. Actually, Nick Vannett, not a bad signing on the underrated front. And that's basically, Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs. I mean, they did a lot.
They did a whole lot.
So of all those, Sneed is incomplete right now. And I know the way it looks right now. So right at this moment, with them losing and him not playing, I get it.
It's not looking great.
Yeah, it's not looking great at all.
Calvin Ridley's looking bad right now.
Calvin Ridley looks bad. And this is also now then you get into these things with, okay, let's go to the time of signing, what we thought then, because again, I'll always say I was absolute double thumbs up when John Robinson signed Julio Jones. I know how it turned
Sure.
out, so anybody can, in retrospect, rip that.
Absolutely.
I like the Clowney thing. They badly needed some kind of edge rush, and neither of those worked out. So at the time of Snead, it was definitely interesting that there were people not there was not a huge market that appeared for him.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that is information that it's like, okay, maybe you should have known. Ridley, I mean, even in an underwhelming season last year, there was some talk. He still had a 1,000-yard season with Jacksonville. So sometimes you can get into, was it a mistake of the front office, or are they screwing it up now?
Right. No, yeah, that's a good question. Like, is it a bad signing just because it doesn't end up working out here? Like, does that mean it's a bad job on the front office part? Or, like, how much does coaching go into that? How much of it is just the quarterback, right? Like, I don't believe that Calvin Ridley is, like, forgotten how to play football. Now, I will say, we had Michael DeRocco on before the year, and we were talking about Calvin Ridley, and he was, obviously he covers Jacksonville for ESPN. And the talk down there was about how Ridley couldn't get on the same page with Lawrence, and Ridley kept running the wrong route, and Ridley this, Ridley that. And then you fast forward to what we've seen this year, and it's Ridley not being able to get on the same page with Will Levis. Ridley maybe not running hard on some routes. Like, some of the same things that he brought up is kind of what we're seeing right now with Calvin Ridley. So, like, should you have known that? Should you have done your due diligence if you're the front office at that point? I think you can make that argument. But to your point, he has been a very productive player throughout his career. So does that because it's not working out right now, and there's a lot of reasons for that, does that mean it's a bad decision by the front office, or do you divide the blame elsewhere for that?
Yeah. I mean, it needs to work out, right? I mean, when it comes down to it, again, it's just like the win-loss is on your record. It's the outcome of the player is on your record,
exactly.
Too.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I mean, I thought I liked it. And again, even with those complaints by DeRocco, he made a lot of plays.
He did.
It just wasn't it wasn't Ridley before the suspension in Atlanta Ridley.
Right.
So, but the Snead thing, definitely. That's a gamble. Everybody knows you're taking a gamble to some extent. You could even look at a Woozy, and there has been an injury history, and obviously it's played out there. There's been some worst case scenario stuff with some of these guys. I didn't mention even in these, obviously the Ernest Jones is another one that they did too. So they did a lot of veteran adding to try to bolster things, and in some cases, like Jones. I mean, look, the Jones whole thing does end up as a net gain. You have to acknowledge that.
It does.
Now, I agree with PK. Like, you don't want to isolate and make too much of that because, like, a lot of things are going poorly, but that is a net gain. I don't mind the Diggs signing. It's so much of this is about Snead, it's about Ridley, and then it's about, look, it is absolutely fair that they did these things. They did not address right tackle, and right tackle is a disaster.
Yes.
And that's probably as big as anything right now. And like every single day, and it's happened today too on the text line, and these people are right. It's like, just fix the offensive line. Look at the teams that can play. I know a lot of teams have bad offensive lines, but the good teams in this league are at least competent up front. And right now, the Titans still are not. And and when you look back, is like you had to do more.
Well, I don't think in some ways this offseason that Carthon and Brinker really helped themselves with some of the things that they said as well. Like when Carthon comes out and says that they checked every box of what they wanted to do, and then you're 1-5 when the season starts, like that doesn't, the fans look at it and say, oh, really? You checked every box, huh? And you're going to end up being one of the worst teams in the league. That's not good.
We checked every box. We're getting the number one pick, people.
Right.
Get excited.
Exactly. So there's that part of it too, which, does it cause you to lose a little bit of trust in what their process looks like? I don't know. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. More on the Carthon Brinker dynamic coming next, plus something that I expected this week, but now that it appears like it's going that way, really kind of makes me mad. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at Twin Peaks in Madison this Sunday for the pregame show from 9:30 to 11:30. They'll break down the Titans' Week 8 matchup against the Lions, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, Sloan's Motorcycle ATV, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Joe, Willie, and Chase. Spent a lot of time talking about this yesterday. I'm interested to get your thoughts on it. So here we are. We are now 2 days after the DeAndre Hopkins trade. It was official, quote unquote, yesterday. And at the moment, unless I've missed something, there's still no plans for Rand Carthon to talk about this with the media. Now, I understand some people hear these conversations and their eyes glaze over and they say, who cares? But, I mean, some people do care. We've talked about this. And Rand Carthon himself at a press conference last year said he probably needed to do a better job of this. So what do we make of the fact that this has not yet happened? And do you expect it to happen today? If it doesn't happen today, what does that tell you about their approach to this?
Well, here's what I would expect. I think it's absolutely fair to expect, and I think that they really should be serious about talking by the time the deadline's over. So if it's, let's just wait and see all the moves and then sum it all up in one, I can live with that. I mean, the Hopkins trade is significant.
Yeah.
But it's a guy coming in for a fifth, and it's not a shocker. It was not an earth-shaking move, right? It was something that we've been speculating. I think last week we were like, he's going to get traded next week, right?
Yep.
I mean, so I think I was 35-65. I keep getting lower on that. Yeah, he should talk at some point about the moves, because every GM should, and every GM doesn't. So understand that there's no, the NFL mandates a lot of things, including open locker rooms for now. And obviously the head coach has to be available. There's a lot of things that they mandate. They don't mandate that. I think there's it's whatever, twice in a certain period the GM has to. It's not. So it is voluntary.
Yeah.
But a lot of GMs do, and by the way, a lot of owners also are available to some extent to media. I would say more GMs than owners. Well, you should be one of those GMs. You're the Titans. You are trying to sell PSLs to people, right? Some people have called in and told us about the price.
Yep.
Yeah, you should do everything that you can to speak to your fans and to explain things and to be open for questions and to take some hits when things aren't going well. That's part of this deal too.
Yep.
A little bit of a tangent. Could have been a rant. Penn State has 2 players accused, charged with rape, and they are now suspended. And so James Franklin has a press conference the other day, or media gathering. He gets asked multiple questions about this, and every time he's asked, he just walks away from the stage or walks away from the microphone and has his SID come in and say, if you have any questions about Wisconsin, ask your question. Making the whole thing a way bigger deal than it should have been.
Exactly.
Just answer what you can answer. We all understand there are legal things you can't get into. You can answer questions about when you knew or other things around that situation. And frankly, you have to. And frankly, if you're James Franklin and your history at Vanderbilt is what it is, and you're doing this, it's absurd, and you're making it a way bigger deal, way bigger story than it had to be.
Yeah.
That's not I understand the comparison's flawed, but it's like not understanding what your obligations are and how beneficial it can be to actually be available to be questioned. Because again, these questions are for the fans, the customers, the people that you want to pay you a lot of money for your product.
Well, people are mad right now, right? I think a lot of Titans fans are mad about the way that this is going, which, as we've always discussed, I would rather have my fans mad than just not caring, right?
Some have gone into that.
Some have gone into that.
Some have told us they've drifted into that realm.
Some have gone into that. But I would rather have my fans mad than not caring. But part of what happens when they're mad is they want answers on things, and they want to hear from the people that are involved making these decisions. I don't think it's too much to ask the general manager after you make a trade to talk about it.
Exactly. And again, I mean, yes, of course, you're always going to compare people to like their predecessors, things like that. John Robinson always had something when they did something significant. Look, this is a It's a different market. That all these NFL markets aren't the same. To me, the Titans should always be as much access as possible. And Vrabel started to cut away at that, and Callahan cut into it more, unfortunately. They both have cut into the access that you should be as available as possible. You should be as transparent as possible. And so I very much hope that Rand does talk. I understand the idea of, well, it's the coach's time in season and my time out of season. Yeah, but you made moves. You made news.
So it's now your time again.
Now it's your time again. So I hope it happens. We'll see.
JD from Brentwood says AJ was the final straw for Amy regarding J-Rob. Ridley will define Rand. Note to the next GM: don't mess up a top wide receiver. Talking about the Ridley contract. I don't know that I totally agree with that. I mean, on the J-Rob front, I think you're probably onto something there.
Yes.
Is Ridley going to define Rand's 10 years GM? I think quarterback, right? Like, quarterback's going to define it one of two ways to me, Joe. Either they get fired at the end of the year because Levis isn't good enough and the team's terrible and they decide to move in a different direction and Levis is the way that they went, or they are here next year, they do find another quarterback, and it either works and they're still here, or it doesn't and they're gone at some point. Like, I think quarterback is probably what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, I would agree. There's a lot of, and I understand this. Stan in Portland, you said this a lot. I'll read it. I don't think we've read it. Maybe if we have one, whatever, we'll read it again. Rand had one job at the end of last season, fix the O-line. He failed. He got distracted by shiny DBs and wide receivers, lost focus, did not fix what needed the most fixing, period. Jeff, the most frustrating part is it made fixing the O-line number one priority. They didn't, they continued to buy new tires for the car with a bad motor. So you're not wrong. First of all, I disagree on got distracted. You needed a receiver too. Yeah. You needed DBs too. You need a lot of different things to be good as a football team.
Yeah.
So now if you got bad choices at those spots, that's a problem. And that's what we're talking about. Well, that's a problem. But going after those positions, no, that was not wrong. That was right too. Look, this comes down to, I mean, Cushenberry has been fine. He hasn't been great, but I mean, he was the top center available. They signed him. They drafted Latham. It looks like a good pick. They already had Skronsky in place. You knew he was going to be a centerpiece. So they tried Sadiq Charles. That didn't work out, but he kind of left and didn't text people back. That was a weird situation.
And Radens hasn't really been the problem.
And Radens has been fine. It's a pre-existing piece. It's about – look, this comes down to they decided, and I'll raise my hand. I thought the same thing. Petit Frere had shown enough as a rookie, had the talent, had the traits that they could be fine at right tackle with him. And the market was not great at right tackle, but still, that's it, right? That's what it comes down to. You've had such an issue at that spot, especially when he's played, and of course when Duncan plays too, that now you have to shift everything over there, and it's not like everybody else is dominating.
Right.
So that it comes down to that decision. And the thing about that is I have to believe that that's Bill Callahan's advice. I have to believe any offensive line move they make, would they be crazy not to put him in the seat and say, you are Yoda, tell us what we should do. What do you think of this guy? You've watched all his film. Yeah. Is he good enough? Can he play? Yes, he can play. I can make him a good player. That has to be how it went, right?
You would think.
So again, and I'm not trying to take responsibility out front office, but there's no way that they went rogue and said, well, Bill Callahan thinks we need to draft right tackle, but I just really like NPF, man. I really like Petit Frere. I just have a hard time believing that. It's just, this has been a huge mistake. And Duncan previously, which by the way is on these guys, it was a low pick, but he's not a good player at all.
Yeah.
So that's it. Like that. So fixing the O-line, if they fix right tackle, I think they'd probably look okay right now, but they didn't.
Right. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode, is coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game. Okay, did I say Rexrode right?
Rexrode.
Rexrode. Okay, let me do that
No
again.
worries.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours, my friend.
You know, I talk to my kids a fair amount about not taking things for granted, being grateful, being grateful for what you have and,
Sure.
and having some perspective on life. Sometimes we must step back and say that is pretty amazing that Scott Stapp came in here and did that. Good Lord. Like, that truly wasn't staged.
No, that's totally organic.
It's destiny that we would be tied to Creed for the rest of the show's existence. My hatred for them, your love for them.
Well, they're making just an incredible comeback in the world of pop culture right now. They're all over the place.
Yeah, it's great. It's really it's just what this
I love
world, just what this world needs. Let's be grateful.
I love
See,
it.
now you got me, pessimistic again about life. I want to talk,
Scott, we love you.
Yeah, you're cool. You're cool. Your music sucks. Don't ever play any of it anymore.
Right.
Sorry. I'm going to go back to the Titans. One thing that has come up this week, and I get it to a point because I understand that you're watching from afar and you're just blown away and you're wondering, how does this happen? And you're sick as a Titans fan of watching players go elsewhere and they were hurt. Now they're great for you. Or they weren't very good and now they're great for somebody else. Or they were great for you and then you traded them and they're great with the Eagles, for example. But I got to say, I think there's a lot of, and I heard Willie and Chase talking about this yesterday, and I couldn't agree more with Willie's term. There's a lot of revisionist history on the Derrick Henry thing, guys. I mean, look, if we want to go back and do a deep dive on the text line, I mean, maybe Stilly has figured out how to do this. Stilly loves finding receipts. A lot of you, and I don't know if it's the same people. It's the same people who now are screaming about it, but a lot of you are like, this has got to be it for Derrick Henry. No more Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
You can't watch this team pound him into the line anymore. We're built around there's a 1980s. How many times we hear 1980s offense, Vrabel, built around a running back? This is not a running back league, blah, blah, blah. This is the year, by the way, of the renaissance of the veteran running back. They're all over the league kicking butt. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry foremost among them. But let's be real. Look, I hated it too. I would have loved to seen Derrick Henry finish his career here. But when they moved him, the prevailing sentiment in this town was good luck. It's been an incredible run, and this move makes sense considering the offense that's coming. And look, guys, you watch the Ravens now. They're not behind much, but when they are, Derrick Henry's planted firmly on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's just that's the true. That's always been the limitation with him. If you're in a 2-minute offense, trailing in a game, he's not on the field. So was he the Titans' best football player? Absolutely. But still, when you're in a deficit situation with the ball, trying to come back in a game, he doesn't participate. I mean, it's a really interesting. I think it's an oxymoron, I think would be what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That word's too big for me. But let's take it easy on the Titans. You can get mad. We've just talked about all the reasons you can get mad at this front office. There's plenty of reasons right now. Derrick Henry, to me, is not one of them. Derrick Henry, the move made sense, and he's not dominating with the Ravens because he has a good offensive line. Their offensive line is good. It's better than the Titans, but it's about scheme that's built around quarterback and what that does to open up the field for him and give him space that he simply did not have here. And I don't think would have in a lot of offenses. It's a perfect situation. Somebody on this program said last year over and over, Derrick Henry on the Ravens would be amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Now, I can't tell you, I'm not going to be like Kaharski and say you can't root for them. I think you should root for an individual. I think it's fine to do that. If you can't because it's the Ravens, I get it. But that's not one of those to throw in the pile of reasons to be mad at the Titans.
Well, and again, I brought this up from the moment this all took place last year. Explain to me why Derrick Henry would want to come back to this last year. Vrabel's getting fired at the end of the year. They were moving on to a different coach, a different scheme, different quarterback. Tannehill's gone. Byard's gone. Like it just kind of felt like the end of an era. So look, I don't know. Like if the Titans approached him before last season or in the middle of last season and tried legitimately to get a long-term deal with him done, would he have taken it? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's something that we'll never know. But on the surface, with the way that it played out, given the situation heading into last year, I'm not convinced Derrick Henry would have come back here anyway. So there's that. The people just gloss over that,
Yes,
as if this was just like some purely Titan decision not to bring him back. And look, Derrick Henry's not an idiot. Like he wants to go win, and he wants to be in a position where he can win a Super Bowl. And a situation like he's in right now, I think, was probably always in the back of his mind to some degree.
No question. I think he absolutely wants to go win a ring. Was probably going to move on. I will say, if the Titans did come with an extension that was a good number, not an incredible number, but a good number, I think he might have signed up for that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Once you get to, but I agree that once you get to the free agency thing, I think he's like, where can I go to?
Yep.
Well, and also extend his career. He's having incredible numbers while having way fewer carries, averaging 6.5 a carry.
He had 170 yards the other night. He carried the ball 15 times.
Right. It helps to have an 81-yard run.
Right.
But he looks rejuvenated, and it's just, it's not. This is not one of those things. Again, it's like the addition, like Stilly bringing up Malik Willis. Well, this staff kept Levis and moved on from Willis, and Willis came in and beat him. So you think Malik Willis is a starting quarterback in this league? Or did he happen to come in here and win a game? Come on.
Right.
There are plenty of other things that are worth getting mad about.
Exactly. And look, maybe the Titans, there are some people that are mad about the other thing, right? Like, well, if you're going to lose him anyway, you should have just traded him at the end of last year. And if you want to be mad about that, that's fine. I mean, apparently it was pretty close to getting traded to the Ravens last year anyway. That's what at least the general manager of the Ravens says. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's a little debate on that one.
There is a little bit of a debate on that one. But, there's people mad the other way too. Like, well, if you're going to lose him, you should have just traded him. Move on. Like, people are really mad about Derrick Henry.
I mean, and there's another revisionist history narrative because it worked out pretty well that you got the ending. Even in a crappy season, you had that moment with Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Beating the Jags, and he's able to get on the microphone. That very rarely happens in sports.
Yes, it was very cool. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on a busy week for the Tennessee Titans and the matchup against the Lions coming up this weekend. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. We go to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our man, Turon Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD. TD, good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning. What's going on?
A lot, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. Been a busy week for you. Been a busy week for the Tennessee Titans. Let's start on the Hopkins front. Number one, what did you make of the return, and what do you make of the fit for Hopkins with Kansas City?
You know, I don't like the conditions of it. I mean, Super Bowl is 60% of the snaps. He only played 45% while he was here. So I think that's not going to be likely that they get the fifth to go up to a fourth. But, you know, we have a guy on an expiring contract, a guy that pretty much wanted to get up out of here. It's fair compensation. So it's something that they felt had to happen. And, you know, the Chiefs are better for it, and we'll see what happens. You know, I guess it's going to be them or the Ravens. So Titans fans, you either root for the Chiefs or the Ravens with Derrick Henry and see what happens.
So I know Brian Callahan kind of downplayed this, TD, but I do believe that if things were going differently with Levis, that there'd be a better chance that Hopkins would not have been moved, because Hopkins has got to be a key guy for him. And I'm not saying I necessarily see this as they are 100% giving up on Levis, but do you agree that this at least maybe signifies some indication of what they think about Levis and how he's playing?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I think it signifies that to a degree. And you looked at how last year, right, Levis, how many touchdowns did he have?
He had 4 right away. I know that.
8.
Yeah, sounds
Well,
right.
last year he had 8.
Yeah.
You know who caught 7 of them?
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins. So it's like, wow, you're taking away the hand that feeds me. You know what I mean, so to speak. I think, you know, that's why it was good that Callahan was asked about that. But he said that you got to figure out someone else to throw to. But at the same time, I think if they were cooking, there wouldn't be any offloading contracts or anything like that. They would have that eye more on this season as well as the future. And now, I mean, I think it's more on the future. I know they haven't given up on Levis. That's in conversations I've had, but it's definitely not the same degree of conviction as it was before.
So, TD, we know the NFL and the trading deadline is not like it is in some other sports. You know, certainly, you know, hockey, basketball, baseball, where, I mean, you can have, you know, total sell-offs of teams if you really want to in those sports. But how much more active do you think the Titans can be / will be over the next few days here, knowing that there's just not a ton of high-level assets that they have on their roster right now?
Well, you said it right there. Not a ton of high-level assets. And right now, you look at some of the teams that are contenders, right? You look at the Ravens. The Chiefs already, you know, picked them a little bit. Maybe the 49ers, right, when you look at just the need for pass rush help. The Eagles, right, with Harold Landry. But I don't think they deal Harold Landry, honestly. I think it would be silly to do so because he's under a decent contract, right, 17.5 the next couple of years. And he is under control for the next couple of years, right? You look at the guys they offloaded. They were, you know, 1-year guys who they weren't 1-year guys necessarily, but they were last year of the contract guys that, you know, probably won't be on the books next year. So now you got something for them. So I don't think that they move anybody. I think they stand pat. But hey, I didn't think they would move Ernest Jones IV, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm with you. I did come up with this scenario. I guess maybe it starts Sunday. Harold Landry goes up there, sacks Jared Goff a couple times. Titans, who have no edge rushing now with Ada Hutchinson. I mean, they just really have guys who are out there filling those roles. Strike out on Max Crosby. You know, Reddick is signed with the Jets. They come back around to a team that can win it all, but not if they don't have anybody come off the edge and they're so desperate that they overpay for a Harold Landry. Now, I know a first sounds crazy probably, although guess what? The Raiders are asking for 3 firsts for Max Crosby or something. Is that what Charles Brown did? 3 firsts? Yeah, I don't know. But what about that? What if you're the Titans and you got offered a first for Landry, would you consider that?
I think you do consider it and you make the move. The thing is, though, like you draft guys to become Harold Landry's or better,
Right.
but still, when you're in this situation where you get a first, right? We don't know how this quarterback thing is going to shake out. Hey, is it going to be Levis next year? You know what I mean? I don't know. But if you decided you want to draft a quarterback, having two firsts, it allows you to really be able to control the draft, so to speak. And I mean, you look at what Houston did with two firsts a couple of years ago, right? Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud, and next thing you know, it's a franchise turnaround. So you got a guy who I think is going to have a C.J. Stroud-like impact with the right team in the first season next year, Shedeur Sanders. So boom, you go there, and then you could get another impact player if you have another first. I think what if you get a James Pierce, right? Now you imitate what the Texans did. So I mean, there's options. If you get a first, and man, I would do that in a heartbeat.
So TD, Joe brought up the Lions. There's a game this week. Titans do have to play a football game this week. They're an 11.5-point underdog, which in the NFL is just an unbelievable line. What do you make of this matchup from the standpoint of, I know Jameson Williams is out. How rough do you think this could get for the Titans on Sunday against Detroit and an offense that is just firing on all cylinders right now?
Yeah, and when Jameson Williams was in, it was 12.5. So it was even worse opening. In some lines, I saw 13.5. But yeah, I think when you look at this offense, right, it's a classic case of looking what the quarterback does best and just magnifying it. Jared Goff, if you ask me, and it's crazy that I'm saying this, but even Patrick Mahomes is not as good in play action passing as Jared Goff. I think he may very well be the best in the league, like literally the best in the league in play action passing. And they do that all the time. So you look at the way they set things up, then you got Amon St. Brown running those underneath routes and just ruling the middle of the field. Cleve Raymond, former Titan, he'll be in there stretching the field in place of Jameson Williams. Did you guys see what he did to Stephon Gilmore?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It was nasty right off the line.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have that too. And obviously Sam Laporte to the rushing attack. Like they are, a fully loaded offense. So it's going to be a tough task. I think they win pretty big.
So TD, I saw, like Arden Key, expressing some, as you would expect. I mean, these guys work their butts off and they're trying to win. They're not winning. And all of a sudden you're seeing guys vacate the premises. Look, you're in this league, you know what it is, but still, what's your temperature take on this locker room right now with the state of things?
Yeah, I think they understand the business side of it, but they understand they have a job to do still. And I think Quandre Diggs, talking to him, he pretty much said it best. He talked about himself getting traded before, and he said he understands, that's a part of it. But at the same time, there's a standard that a lot of these guys have established, and they have to live up to it. And you just got to come to work and continue to try to win. And I think Arden Key, he also said about, hey, look, man, we got Detroit this week. A win like this could snowball into more wins. So these guys are focused on winning this game, and I think they have the right mindset. But you can have the right mindset, but not have the right artillery, and I think that's kind of what they're looking at. And it could get really bad this weekend.
Yeah, I think you might be onto something there. TD, good stuff as always, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us today, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys.
All right, Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, our guest here on the program. More thoughts to get to on the Titans coming up next. We'll get to that. Pigskin Pick'em is coming up at 8:30. Vanderbilt taking on Texas, the Titans, and the Lions. Lots to get to coming up. We'll get into all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our college football game of the week. Oklahoma taking on Ole Miss, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate Teron Davenport for being with us in the last segment. We'll have Pigskin Pick'em coming up at 8:30. Preds Pick to Click at 8:45 with the Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Taking your thoughts right now on our text line. D. Hayes from Nashville on the text line. Let's not forget that Blake Bedingfield had to beg J-Rob to pick Derrick Henry. Also, he picked two busts ahead of him in the draft, Kevin Dodd and Austin Johnson. Henry was a free agent, so he could have chose to walk away any way it goes. People just love beating up this front office for anything, and it's insane. This is from D. Hayes from Nashville on the text line.
Well, okay. I mean, look, yes, no question. I mean, John Robinson made some bad picks in that draft. I mean, again, if you want to go line by line with any GM, you will find some that pick, right? Ultimately, you got to have more good than bad, and you're right, no question. Bedingfield deserves a lot of credit in this city for Derrick Henry being a Titan, without question. And then he talked Malarkey into it, and then Malarkey, eventually they got J-Rob turned around on it. So, but that's what it should be too. That should be that kind of conversation in there. And when you talk about beating up this front office, well, yeah, their team's 1-5. Their team sucks. Their team has sucked for a while.
They're 7-16 overall.
Yeah, you're looking for people to blame, and that is your record. That is your record as a front office. So did they inherit a bad situation? Largely because of what happened before them in the latter years of John Robinson? Yes, no question. But this is still their record. Remember, John Robinson came in for a team that was 5-27, and he found a way to instantly get the Titans from crappy to decent. In the NFL, going from crappy to decent should be pretty easy. It just should. Now, decent to very good or great, that's hard.
Yeah.
And John Robinson got him there too eventually. But just getting to middling is something that this league is designed for you to do.
Wes in Clarksville, how is the D-Hop move dependent on Levis? Mason played 2 games as well, and D-Hop still didn't get the ball. It's not about getting him the ball. It's about the comfort level of the target, right?
It's just you take him out of here, and now who does he have?
Right. Like
that's the problem.
I haven't been able to figure out Ridley yet. It's not about like how often what the production for D-Hop looks like. Although the production for D-Hop last year under Levis was really good, right? And for whatever reason, part of it was he was injured to start the year, and part of it Levis has just played terribly this year as the production has not been there. I mean, D-Hop's last game as a Titan was 1 catch for -2 yards. So there is that. But no, it has nothing to do with – it's not dependent on Levis. But the question is, does the fact that they've chosen to move on from him for a 5th-round pick give you any insight whatsoever into how they view Will Levis? That's the question.
Yeah. I mean, they certainly aren't helping him by doing that. Because, like TD pointed out, last year there's no question they had a connection. It wasn't materializing this year. A lot of things weren't materializing. But Ridley certainly isn't. Ed says regarding Ridley and him not having a connection with the QB last year, didn't Nick Holtz witness this firsthand? Staff has to take part of the blame. Yeah, remember when all this came about, we talked about it. It's like, man, so Charles Robinson came on the show. It was like, some people think like the Jags misused Ridley. It's like, well, Nick Holtz was the passing game coordinator for the Jags last year. So he knows what they did and what Ridley did, which to me was like, that seems to me like an endorsement, right? Just like we talk about Bill Callahan and their decisions that, you blame Rand for not fixing the offensive line. I mean, all they talked about the combine was how mesmerized they were by Bill Callahan going through tape of everybody. Pretty sure that he had an endorsement of Petit Frere, right? That he could at least be a serviceable player. Same thing I would like, well, Nick Holtz must like the Calvin Ridley move, right? They must have asked him about it. And so Charles comes to us with they misused him. And then Mike Duraco says, well, everybody says Ridley screwed everything up there.
Right.
Whatever it was not what they hoped last year. and now this year it's way below that.
Well, this is a pattern, right? Like it's
to some extent, but this is like still way off the grid of what last year
well, I
was.
think this is way off the grid. I would agree. It's also truly horrendous quarterback play. Like Lawrence wasn't good last year. He was not this that Will Levis is. So it's bad quarterback play, and some of it's him too, right? Like when you have that much smoke around it in Jacksonville and now here, and we keep talking about not being able to get on the same page and not running through routes and all this other stuff. Like some of this is on him as well. And I think that has become pretty clear. The question is like, can you fix it? Because to your point, people keep asking about, can they trade Ridley? I mean, Charles said yesterday, like if a team calls, I mean, I guess you pick up the phone and you listen. If you're the Titans, that would be a pretty quick admission to a mistake if you're the Titans at that point. But like, it's important whether Levis is the quarterback or not moving forward. They got to get the Ridley part of this figured out because they are heavily invested in him.
Will, we believe in you. We want you to prove to us you're our guy. Now, do that by throwing NWI and Mason Kinsey. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know if throwing the NWI is a bad idea.
No, I know.
Just throw him the ball.
Yes. Well, he's
got 4 targets, 2 touchdowns.
He's going to score this week in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Called shot Friday. He's scoring.
I mean, he's going to be on the field a lot, I would assume.
He will be. Yes, he will be. Guaranteed. There you go. Thank you.
How about that? Trevor on the text line. Also, what about Tim Kelly's familiarity with Hopkins being together in Houston and the 1 year in Tennessee versus Callahan? Callahan even came out and said he was unfamiliar with Hopkins back in training camp, if I remember correctly. I mean, does that explain some of the lack of production for Hopkins? Maybe, but like I view that, Joe, as like if you're an offensive guy and then you're the play caller and you're putting together the scheme, like I don't think it should be that hard to get DeAndre Hopkins a football, regardless of your familiarity level with him or not.
Right. I mean, he's been a dominant receiver in this league for a long time. You know what he does, who he is as a player. I mean, I think that's the thing. Like we've kind of gotten away from. I mean, you just brought it back. Quarterback play is still a whole bunch of this. It's like the record of the front office. It is 1-5 this year. What'd you say it was? 7-16?
7-16 overall.
Yeah. Also, they blew the Bears game.
Yep.
They absolutely could have won the Jets game. They absolutely could have won the Colts game. So, it could be a totally different kind of conversation just based on a handful of plays, but the quarterback play has been bad.
Well, and that's life in the NFL too, right? Like
yes.
It's a lot of the NFL and a lot of whether or not you're successful in your job basically comes down to like 1-score games. Like, how do you do in them? Like, can you win more 1-score games than you lose? Like, that's life in the NFL for the most part.
Yes.
Unless you're the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
And then you don't have a ton of 1-score games.
Then you're not bad in 1-score games.
You're really not.
Dennis says that when I think about the situation the Titans are in, I put it on 3 decisions: Isaiah Wilson, Caleb Farley, A.J. Brown. Someday maybe we could rank a top 10. But, that's probably your clear top 3. First-round pick on Farley, first-round pick on Wilson, and, of course, first-round pick on Burks in tandem with Brown. Do we count that as a 4th move, or do we count A.J. Brown / Burks together as one move? Either way, that's number 1.
But, like, even the Wilson pick, like, that's 4 years ago now. Like, I understand that sets you back. But that's 4 years ago.
Sure.
Like, but I don't know how much longer you get to really use that.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I think the situation they're in now, I would agree, right? I mean, like if you have total empties at first round, 3 in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, it's attached to the other 2, but you're going a little farther back with that one. But at the same time, he was brought in to replace your very good right tackle, Jack Conklin, and they still have not replaced your very good tackle, right, Jack Conklin.
Yeah, well, the problem, like the Wilson pick, is that it compounded, right? Because you had the Wilson pick that you missed on, then you drafted Radens to be your right tackle. That's what he was drafted to be, which now he's turned into a decent right guard, but was drafted to be your right tackle, and then you drafted Nicholas Petit-Frere after that to be your right tackle, and all 3 of them are not your right tackle.
Yes.
That's the problem.
So what you're saying is they should draft a right tackle in the first round?
Hey, might have to happen. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Andrew. Andrew, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning. I love you guys.
Thank you.
Listen, I just want to give you my take on this. I'm riding with Will Levis till the wheels fall off, man. And let me tell you why. I just believe that his problem is, you remember the $6 Million Man? Remember that show?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
And remember how he would move in slow motion, but we thought he was moving fast?
Right.
I think that's how Will sees the field, and doesn't see the field. It doesn't. The game has not slowed down enough for him, and I think with time, and I do believe that we have the right coach and we have the right GM. It's just going to take time moving from the pass picks and the pass administration to them being able to continue to work together to build this team, and we just got to go through the growing pains. That's all it is. But in my opinion, I just think that for Will, the game just hasn't slowed down enough for him to see the field and make the right decisions. And we're either going to have to ride with him through it or run him out of town like we've done the last several quarterbacks. But I'm sticking with Will to, just let him play, let him get in there, let him begin to see the field, let him develop. And that's all I got to say.
Yep. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Andrew.
I like the sunshine.
Nice it's a nice change of pace to have a different take on the quarterback situation.
No, it is. I mean, look, I think that there is the game needs to slow down more for him. I guess that's where you get into the question of when should that happen,
right?
And also there are different timelines for different quarterbacks. And again, for him, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it does this year. Maybe it happens 3 years from now when he's somewhere else and someone gets hurt and he gets another chance to start. I don't know.
Would it have slowed down more if he didn't film the Mayo commercials in the offseason?
Oh, see, if he would have spent that time watching more film, the game would be absolutely a tortoise for him right now. But it is nice to get that different perspective. And I will say, I think it would be great for everyone in this city if he had like a 20 for 25 for 303, even if they lose the game, just to change up the conversation. We've even gotten away from talking about him because he hadn't been playing.
Yeah.
But it's still,
and it's exhausting.
Yes. Still kind of comes back to that, doesn't it?
It does. 615-737-1025. Our phone number, Pigskin Pick'em, is coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game.
Now, it's time for Pigskin Pick'em with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week, time for Pigskin Pick'em here on the program. Vanderbilt taking on Texas tomorrow here in our city. The Titans traveling to take on the Detroit Lions, the mighty team that will not yield. No game for Tennessee this weekend, so the Vols are off. With that in mind, Joe Rexrode, a standings update in the competition. Where do we stand?
So last week I went 4-2, but missed my lock. What the heck was my lock? My stupid lock. Oh, BYU. Nick got his lock, and which was Army. Went 3-3 and got 4 points. You went 3-3, but you did not get your lock because your lock was Vanderbilt. They screwed you over. So as of now, me 30-18. Down to 4-4 my locks, 34 points. Nick, 24-24, but 6-2 on his locks, 30 points. Robby, 25-23, but 2-6 on your locks, 27 points. Overall, still a very good competition. And overall, we're all doing pretty well.
With that in mind, we begin with Vanderbilt and Texas tomorrow here in our city. Texas is an 18.5-point favorite coming into this game. Joe Rexrode, you are in first place. You get the first pick. Who you got between Texas and Vanderbilt?
I'm excited about this game. I think it's going to be pretty good. I think Texas will win. I think Vanderbilt will score. I think Texas will score more, but I think Texas is winning by about 10-14. Give me Vanderbilt in the 18.5.
Going with Vanderbilt plus the 18.5. Nick Keyser, Vanderbilt and Texas tomorrow.
Diego Pavia, fueled by Canes, will get the job done tomorrow. Not an upset. I agree with Joe. They'll score. They'll stay in it, but I don't think the Longhorns will win by more than 18.5.
Texas minus the 18.5. I'm not doing this again.
Okay.
Vanderbilt fans, you're welcome.
There you go.
Really, everything that I pick on Vanderbilt, the opposite happens. So congratulations to Vanderbilt on another big win tomorrow, but I'll go Texas minus the 18.5. The Detroit Lions are an 11.5-point favorite against the mighty Tennessee Titans on Sunday. Nick Keyser, who do you have between the Lions and the Tennessee Titans?
Lions lock. 100% believe that they will get the job done. I mean, I like this. Their wide receiver core will just terrorize the Titans secondary, I believe. So give me the Lions this weekend.
I'm going to go with the Lions as well. I mean, it's pretty hard to pick the Titans right now. I'll go Lions minus the 11.5. I will not make it my lock, but I will go with the Detroit Lions minus the 11.5. Joe Rexrode, who you have between the Lions and the Titans?
Harold Landry gets a couple sacks on the Lions' weak link up front. Taylor Decker. Jeffrey Simmons forces a fumble. NWI scores 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
You heard it here first. Tennessee Titans 24, Detroit Lions 23. Upset of the season. Titans and make it my lock.
Oh, yes.
A mighty team that will not yield. Thank you. You heard it here first, folks.
I feel confident that you will be the only person in America to pick this. I'm confident.
The Titans to actually win.
Correct.
Yeah. There might be people who pick them with the points.
Sure. But
I think you're probably right. The Lions are completely overlooking them. They think it's just going to be a total cakewalk. The Titans are pissed off. They got players getting sold off. I'm telling you, Simmons and Landry are going to dominate this football game.
Wow. Joe's Lions hatred knows no bounds.
It's good football analysis.
Joe, your first individual selection.
Speaking of football analysis, how about a little Oklahoma at Ole Miss?
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss minus 20. Lane Kiffin does not miss when he has a chance to run it up on a bad opponent. Oklahoma is a bad football team. That's almost my lock. I love Ole Miss giving 20 at home against Oklahoma.
Nick Keyser, your first individual selection.
He's wearing number 8. He's making his debut with the Chiefs pretty, I would say, confidently after hearing Andy Reid talk yesterday. Give me the Chiefs minus 9.5 over the Las Vegas Raiders this weekend. Looking to see D-Hop, make a pretty nice impression after being here, not playing great football the last 2 years.
I have the same pick, Chiefs minus 9.5 against the Raiders. It's almost my lock. It's not. The Raiders did that thing earlier in the I think it was either week 1 or maybe early in the preseason when they were mocking Patrick Mahomes' Kermit the Frog voice. I got a feeling that might come back to bite them this week. So I'll go Chiefs minus the 9.5. Nick Keyser, your second individual selection.
Staying in the NFL, going with the Kirko Chains against the Buccaneers this weekend. Give me the Falcons.
What's the line?
Minus 2.5.
Minus 2.5. against the Bucks.
So the Falcons are -2.5 at Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they don't have Evans or Godwin. So
Yeah.
that's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay.
That is a tough one. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection.
Sticking with college football, Penn State at Wisconsin. Penn State got some more controversy. James Franklin doing a great job of making it a much bigger deal with his ridiculous behavior at press conferences. And Wisconsin at home is getting 6.5.
Yep.
Absolutely. Give me the Badgers to win this game in a close one. I'll gladly take 6.5.
I'm going Wisconsin plus the 6.5 at home against Penn State. I will take Alabama minus 16.5 against Missouri and make it my lock. I think Missouri is dreadful. I think they are a bad football team. And I don't think Alabama's great, obviously. But there's now basically 3 consecutive weeks of just frustration from Alabama. And I think they're going to hit some huge plays tomorrow. I think Alabama's going to win that game by about 30. So I'll go Alabama minus the 16.5 against Missouri. Joe Rexrode, your third individual selection.
Colts at Texans. Texans -5. Colts are maybe, we always talk about, this is like the best 0-3 team. This is the best. The Colts might be the worst 4-3 team I've ever seen in my life. They suck. Texans -5.
Texans -5 against the Colts. Nick Keiser, your third individual selection.
I got motivated from the great segment that we have with Adam Bingen, Willie, and D Mace yesterday with silly underdogs. Give me Navy to cover against Notre Dame this weekend. Navy is a 13.5 point underdog.
So going with Navy
Underrated
plus 13.5 against Notre Dame.
I like it.
I don't hate that pick. Big matchup in the SEC. Texas A&M and LSU. Texas A&M's a 1.5 point favorite. Joe, to me, this feels like the type of game that Brian Kelly loses. So Brian Kelly's going to lose. Texas A&M minus the 1.5 at home against LSU. Although I will say, Nussmeier playing some good football right now for LSU.
Yeah, that's a big time game. Huge game.
I'm going with the Aggies though at home minus 1.5 against LSU. Nick Keiser, your final individual selection.
And this is also intern Robert's text in pick with us, with he and I. He's going to take Colorado minus 6.5 over Cincinnati this weekend.
So Colorado minus 6.5 against Cincinnati coming up this weekend. Joe Rexrode, your final individual selection.
Well, tradition, and I'm not straying from tradition. Panthers at Broncos. Broncos -10. Oh, give me the Broncos, baby. Give me the Broncos. Huge line in the NFL. I don't care. It's the Panthers. You always count on them to not cover.
What was your lock?
My lock was Titans.
That's right. Duh. I wrote that down.
You forgot?
Yeah, I did. I wrote it down. It's all good.
Okay.
My dad texted and says, "Little Joey Rexrode's reverse psychology has been engaged."
Oh,
like
man. I can't wait till I'm right.
My final individual selection. Give me Arkansas minus 6.5 against Mississippi State. I think Arkansas will make enough plays offensively. I know Mississippi State is getting better, but I believe Arkansas, even on the road, wins by about a touchdown. So I'll take the minus 6.5 for the Razorbacks. Interesting weekend of college football coming up. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Last night we saw Pitt get 3 pick sixes. Pitt's undefeated 7-0. A friend of the show, Pat Narduzzi, is
doing some coaching up there
tonight, folks. 9:30. Look, I don't like the college. I don't like the college football on a Friday night. A late one though.
Game.
It was a huge game. Boise State UNLV. The winner likely is the favorite to get in the playoff, even though Navy and Army are in there and stuff like that too. And Ashton Genty, if you haven't seen him play yet, don't miss it. Do not miss a chance to watch that guy play football.
Yep, it's going to be fascinating. Florida State, Miami coming up this weekend too, which I'm sure people are really excited about. Penn State, Wisconsin, LSU, Texas A&M, and there's some SMU still going well. They're at 6-1, so some good college football, even if there's no Tennessee Vols this weekend.
Yes, and some Rexrodes will be in Ann Arbor Saturday night for Michigan State too.
Could get rowdy,
which has been relegated to the Big Ten Network.
Is Sparty going to win?
I don't think so. Well, it's a toss-up. Michigan's bad, but they're at home, and usually they'll play some D and run the ball at home. So I would pick them in a close game. It should be a good game.
Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. And it is time for Preds Pick to Click. Be the first caller at 615-737-1025. If you guess the goal scored tonight for the Predators, you win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds back in action tonight, taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. Puck drop at 7:30. Pregame at 6:30 here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. A standings update in the competition. Nick Keyser on the board last time out, which brings the overall standings to this. Joe Rexrode remaining in first place with 2 correct answers on the year. Nick and I tied with 1 correct answer apiece after that. And the listeners have yet to get on the board. Even though the listeners have the first pick every time, they have yet to get on the board so far this year. We'll see if that changes.
Pick it up, guys.
Now, let's go back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Chase. Chase, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click tonight for the Nashville Predators?
Yo, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Good, man.
Yeah, I'm going to pick my man Roman Josi to get his first goal of the season tonight.
So going with the captain. Chase, thanks for the call.
Yes,
Roman
sir.
Josi,
have a good one.
the selection.
Well, good. He's been getting disrespected, so good job, Chase.
He has been getting disrespected in this competition. Nick Keyser, you are up next. Roman Josi is off the board. Your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
Zachary LaRue, first NHL goal tonight in Chicago.
Ooh.
We're getting a little crazy here in this competition, and I kind of like it. Josi LaRue off the board. I am up next. You know, there's a couple different ways I could go.
I think
here.
you need to keep going with the theme, man.
I might. I'll take Steven Stamkos in the competition. He's like, every game he has like just 2 or 3 incredible looks. He's going to have a game here pretty soon where he scores about 5. But I'll go Stamkos. Josi, LaRue, Stamkos, Rexrode, your selection.
Okay, I'll go Forsberg.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, we could have kept going with the theme, but no. Stamkos, Forsberg.
I don't know if it's a theme. Like, you're acting like Roman Josi is some crazy pick.
No, but Josi has now become the 5th most popular pick. He will
Yes.
be the 5th most, and then obviously
I mean, I like LaRue.
the LaRue pick.
Going
I
LaRue
love
is
that.
good. I like that. Could have gone
That'd be a lot of fun.
Michael McCarron. I chose him a couple times
Yeah.
last year.
Luke Shin.
Already scored.
He has scored.
Already scored.
Did he ever get picked last year?
I think
like-
he may have been selected late in the
For
competition
bleeps and
By me,
giggles at some
when I
point?
was down by 9 goals.
Oh yeah, that's true. Once you were tanking, it didn't really matter, did it?
It did not at that point. It's you get the first win out of the way the other night. I looked at the standings this morning, which is something I never do before like December, but I did it anyway. Winnipeg is 7-0-0, so they're at 14 points already. So you are 12 points back of the Winnipeg Jets right now. Now, obviously, they're going to cool off at some point here, but 7-0 to begin the season. John Hines' mighty Minnesota Wild, 5-0-2, so they're 12 points. And then there's the Dallas Stars, who are 6-2 on the season to begin the season. So you're already 10 points back of the Stars and the Wild and 12 points back of the Winnipeg Jets. I said it Wednesday morning after they won against Boston. These are 2 games this weekend, and I realize it's a back-to-back, and those get tricky. These are 2 games this weekend they need to win. You need to win both these games, tonight and tomorrow against Columbus.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you do, then I think you kind
Stabilize
of push the slow start aside. Hockey season goes in those you think of it in 10-game stretches.
Yep.
You're fine. But yeah, even a split at this point because of the hole you dug.
You need to win them both. You're better than both of
your
these
wheels
teams.
a little bit.
Yeah.
You got to win the games you need to win that you should win when you start like that.
And I'm interested. I mean, I would assume that Wedgwood is getting one of these 2. And I don't know. I'm interested to see how they split it. Like, you could go Saros tonight, and then he gets a couple days rest, and then they have Tampa for what's going to be a huge game on Monday with Stamkos going back down there. You could go Wedgwood tonight and have Saros tomorrow, and then Saros again Monday on basically 1 day rest at that time. So I'm interested to see how Brunette handles that, but they need to win tonight. They need to win tomorrow. They're better than both of these teams. Joe, final thoughts on Texas and Vanderbilt coming up tomorrow for the Doors. Can the Doors pull this off again and have another gigantic upset against a team and a program that they have not played since 1928, the last time these two teams played each other.
Yeah, good story from Aria Gerson about that in the Tennessean, by the way. And I believe they can. I believe that I'm not picking them to win, but can they win this game? Yeah, I don't think that we're going to watch this game tomorrow and be like, like you have this thought of Vanderbilt and they're just overwhelmed and you're so used to seeing that. I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think we're going to see a competitive football game, and ultimately Texas is better, and Texas coming off a loss, maybe that's not good for Vanderbilt that they're coming off a loss. Probably be better for them that they'd be undefeated number one, right? And game day might be here too. But no, I think that they can win. It's a sold-out stadium. Interesting story from Grace Hall, the Vanderbilt hustler, student at Vanderbilt, about the kind of how they've kind of messed up the student ticketing and things like that. And I believe they've responded to that, and they've got a better system in place. So I think you're going to see more students there. It should be a really loud atmosphere. Texas fans are going to be here because I'm sure a bunch of them were like, oh, heck yeah, we'll do a weekend in Nashville and all that. So they will be very present in the building, but I think you're also going to see a strong student presence and just a really great atmosphere.
Sark going to panic and go to Arch, spell like drive too? What do we think?
I don't know. I don't know. I think, that's the thing. I mean, I think Quinn Ewers will probably find success against Vanderbilt's defense. But it is weird that he made that move and then goes back, and I don't know.
Preliminary look at Arch to get used to his new city in a couple of years when he's quarterback of the Titans.
What was it for him? Bart? No, not Barf for Arch. I know we have a Shart for Dart. Shout out to Cal Tucker.
Yes.
Reminder. What is the thing for Arch?
I don't know. I don't remember. Well, we'll have plenty of time to think of it, though. Plenty of time to
Too much starch in your shirt for Arch? That does not work at all.
That nailed it. That was good.
That is, well, what a way to finish the program. My goodness.
That's going to do it for us today. Hope everybody has a fabulous weekend. Chasing Big Joe, which I believe is going to feature Nick Frazier, Nick Keyser, and Chase McCabe coming up next.
Congrats, Grandpa Joe.
This is 102.5, 106.3 The Game.